The information shared on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. While we discuss topics related to mental health, well-being, and emotional support, we are not providing therapy or medical services. Always seek the advice of your physician, psychologist, psychiatrist, or other qualified mental health provider with any questions you may have regarding a mental health condition. If you are in crisis, feeling unsafe, or need immediate support, please contact a mental health professional or emergency services in your area. The views expressed by guests and hosts are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of any affiliated organizations or institutions.
Get inspired, get motivated with M.A.Y.A and the M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition podcast.
Something that I take pride in is trying to be forward-thinking, thinking outside the box, challenging myself. And as I challenge myself, hopefully I challenge you.
Find M.A.Y.A on Twitter and Instagram at M.A.Y.A_Akai. On Facebook at M.A.Y.A Akai Presents.
We're going to talk health, wealth, fitness, mental health, financial, lots of different things that can empower you as you seek out the ambition that you're pursuing.
Or get everything M.A.Y.A at M.A.Y.A_Akai.com.
Namaste, everyone. Welcome to episode 80. Well, we're 80 episodes in to M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition, the podcast that I like to say wants to embrace the idea of mental wellness and make it a salient topic from a fresh and forward-thinking perspective, because so many of us struggle with self-doubt and sabotage. So on this podcast, we like to pull back that veil and to look back there so we can figure out how to identify the ambitions you want, but more importantly, how to harness the motivation to help you yield satisfaction, not just in life, but your everyday life. So if you are a first-time listener or viewer, welcome. I always say just buckle up for safety, because occasionally it could be an unexpected bumpy ride, because maybe I'll say something, or perhaps all my amazing guests have dropped nuggets for everyone to pick up that has definitely been helpful. And it's just something that you may say, But if you are a returning listener or viewer, well, welcome back. Always appreciate your support, but more importantly, I know you know how we do things here. So I always tell people for this 30 to 60 minutes, however this podcast kind of flows, grab pencil, papers. You can jot down maybe some thoughts you might have that you might want to revisit at a later date. We are actually in the 11th installment of the Ambition shows, and they have been amazing because I have been brought on guests that have really helped people to understand how to take their passion, align it with their purpose, and how to push it forward with ambition and motivation. And the reason I think these shows have been so powerful is because a lot of times people believe they can't achieve something, they can't get something done. But I have found when they have really come to meet our guests, it has changed the way that they absolutely see a lot of things. So that part is so powerful. So in this episode 80, let's talk empowerment with a best-selling author. She's a TEDx speaker, a podcaster, amazing guest we're going to have here that's going to share her story, but especially how to embrace that empowerment piece that I like to sell and push with people. Now, remember, if you've missed any episodes, don't ever fret. You can find episodes in iTunes, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Audible, Spotify. If it's a podcast platform, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be able to find me there. Just search M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition. You can make life a little easy on yourself too, and just subscribe to my YouTube channel, M.A.Y.A Speaks to You. By the way, people, I finally got my act together. So all of my social media platforms have that handle, M.A.Y.A Speaks to You. So you can find me on Facebook, IG, as well as X. Of course, the website is just a great way to stay connected with me. So you can always find me at maya-speaks.com. There are 2 things on there I'm super passionate about. One, I have an inspirational blog that I post every Wednesday, 1 thought a week, because I don't want to dump all this inspiration on you every single day. Some things are powerful enough that you just need to sit in it for a while, so it makes more sense. So only on Wednesdays is there a posting in the inspirational blog. But the other part of my website that I am so passionate about, everyone who knows M.A.Y.A knows I am the poster child for menopause. Literally, if there is anywhere from 60 known symptoms of menopause, if you didn't know that, you might have just went, what? 60 symptoms tied to being in a process of hormonal change? There is. I'm the poster child. This blog ultimately is called Me on Pause. post different articles to educate women about, this is a natural change, but it can be highly disruptive in your life in many ways that most people never know. So once a week on Wednesdays, I post on Me.Pa's blog about menopause. So you can grab some nuggets from there as well and learn some things about menopause, and you can always share it with people. Before we jump into our next guest, I have to, and I always recap our former guests. So episode 79 was something that for me, I am still processing. I had on Miles Spencer, who helped us talk about the ideals or the ways that we navigate grief. And it's powerful because Miles has created this technology called Reflecta AI. And Reflecta AI is this process of taking the idea of, obviously, as you hear, AI, and combining it with the human touch. So when you decide to want to explore the idea of grief from an AI standpoint, it takes the memories of your loved ones and creates this way that you can continue to connect with them. So you work with a biographer to tell that person's story. You provide photos, which are turned into these amazing watercolors. And if you have a voice to provide, you can. And they create what would be this likeliness of a person. Now, I'm going to tell you this. When I actually sat down with Miles and talked about this, I really was on the fence, like big time. And I still, at moments, are on the fence with it because it's a powerful tool. But if you're not ready for that tool, it could be something that could also be a detriment. So it could be a gift, or at the same time, it could be something that could be heavy to navigate. I leave it to everyone to figure out on their own. If you go to Reflecta AI, that's the website, you actually can try a demo and see what you think. You get to meet Miles' father, whose name is Arthur. The reason Miles created this technology was he actually got married a little later, had a daughter, and his father never got to meet his daughter. And he thought, my dad is this amazing man that she's never going to meet. And because he's always worked in the digital arena, he came up with this idea and created it. And actually, it began for a way for his daughter to get to know her grandfather. It's powerful, but it's different. So check it out, see what you think, listen to the episode, and you can hear what he has to say. And if you think it's something you want to dip your toe into, I tell you, it doesn't hurt to explore it. So that was our last week guest. It's called Soul Tech, Reflecta AI. So you can go check it out. Reflecta.ai is the website. Go check it out. Check out the podcast itself and see what you think. But now on the ambition stage. I'm excited about this. Simone Knego is a best-selling author, a TEDx speaker, a podcaster, and she's all about women's empowerment. So my ladies, you know how this feels to have someone who can help you to figure out how to set on that path and to get to where you want to be. And it's not something that's necessarily easy to do. So when you meet someone like Simone, I mean, her books to me are absolutely worth reading. And I'm going to say this. She says something that I say to people in therapy all the time, but I won't say it yet. But besides the fact that she's an author, a speaker, she's a mother, she's a wife, an amazing daughter. She is all those things. She has been on ABC, NBC, CBS. She's an entrepreneur. She's been featured on Yahoo News. So let's say this is a woman who knows what she's doing and passionate about it. And we're going to bring it to a stage so she can share it with you. Without further ado, everyone, let's bring our 11th guest to the ambition stage, Simone Knego. Hello, Simone. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me here today.
Oh, you know what? Every guest I have had on thus far has been so amazing to have on. And their story to me is where I like to start with people, because so many of people who listen to the show, as well as people I work in to therapy, get these hangups about feeling what they can't do. And I said, everyone who's ever achieved something, it wasn't an easy road. So tell us a bit about who is Simone and what got you to the point where you decided you wanted to be a women's empowerment advocate.
Thanks for that question. So first and foremost, I am a mom of 6. I have been married for 32 years to my husband. I'm a keynote speaker, author, podcast host. I have a podcast with my 22-year-old daughter called Her Unshakeable Confidence. And I am someone that struggled with self-doubt for the majority of my life. I'm now 53 years old. And when I was in my 40s, I really had a turning point. And I was asked to do something completely out of my comfort zone. And I said yes. And what did I say yes to? I said yes to climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. Now, I am not a climber. I live in Florida. I have 16 steps in my house. I've gone camping a couple of times, but I knew that I needed to get out of my comfort zone, and that is exactly what this did for me. And it changed my entire future because I really was able to realize what I was capable of. I was able to stop the comparison game. I was able to really step into my own power.
And that's a mother of 6. That alone right there is going to definitely give you a whole bunch of experience in working, obviously, with people. Curating and raising children is such a powerful thing to do within itself. So 6 kids. And I think when I was reading your bio, I saw that you had 3 biological, but you also adopted 3 children, if I saw that correct. Is it
Yes, that is true.
2 from Ethiopia, was I correct? And the
Yeah.
other, was it Vietnam?
South Korea.
South Korea.
Yes.
And that's amazing, because one, to open your heart and your house to others. So what kind of made you take the path of going to adoption?
So we had 3 biological children. Adoption was something we had talked about actually in between our first and second child. It took a long time for me to get pregnant, and so we started exploring it. And then, of course, as soon as we really started exploring it, I found out I was pregnant. So it went on the back burner. And we really we still believe that there are so many amazing kids in the world waiting for a family to love them, and we wanted to be that family. It's kind of like a funny story, but basically I had a picture taken of the 3 oldest kids, and Olivia was in the bassinet. Jacob and Emma were kind of like on one side of the bassinet and behind it. And so when I saw that picture, I was like, something's missing. Like, I didn't think 3 things were missing, but something was missing, because there was like that big empty space on the one side. And that's when we said, like, it's now or never. Let's do it. And so we adopted Noah from South Korea, and he was a baby. He was 4 months old. And then we went to adopt again, and we chose to adopt from Ethiopia. We adopted our son Ari. He was 4.5 years old. And then when we were in Ethiopia, we knew we were going to come back one more time, because the kids there were just so amazing. And again, just waiting for a family to love them. And so then we adopted Millie, and she was 2.5 years old. And then the minivan was full.
Absolutely. So, okay. So full family, raising kids. So one of the things that I often talk about within therapy, especially whether it's my parents, whether it's the mom or the dad, I say, within our life, we wear so many hats. We are daughters, we are granddaughters, we are sometimes sisters, grandchildren. Then we become spouses to someone and mothers. And often within that journey, what gets lost is ourselves. We don't often get very connected to us, because we're wearing so many hats and stepping into so many roles. And if you do it with passion and honestly sincerity, it's easy to get lost in all those roles. So where did Simone emerge out of all this to become the author, the Tedx speaker, the podcaster?
Yeah, I mean, I got lost for a long time, and not that was bad. I mean, I loved being a stay-at-home mom while I was a stay-at-home mom, but I couldn't figure out what I wanted. And what I realized is that I hadn't explored what things that had happened in my past. And so when I was in high school, I had an abusive boyfriend, and that really it started my whole self-doubt journey, right? Everything I thought about was the things that this person said to me, and it was always negative. And so that's the way I started to see myself, and that's the way I would talk to myself. And really having that moment of climbing Kilimanjaro, I mean, there's other things that added to it. I was like, wow, I am capable of whatever I put my mind to, as long as I want to do it, right? It's asking yourself what you want. And that's kind of where all of this stemmed from, is realizing, hey, what do you want moving forward? Is this what you want in your life? Do you want to speak? Do you want to write? Right? I started off as an accountant. I have a bachelor's and master's in accounting, and I was a CPA. So not the life path that I thought I was going to have, but I'm a big believer in that it's okay to change your mind. And, we have these expectations. You should know what you want to do by the time you're 18 years old. And I think that's a bit much.
Simone, I have always felt that was a big much. One of the things I've always said, and you would think at some point we would rethink this. I'm like, why do we think anybody at 18 has any clue what they want to do for the rest of their life, when they haven't even really embarked upon that path of adulting? I love when I talk to my younger clients, or their early 20s, and I said, "Oh, are you ready for adulting?" They're like, "No, I don't want that."
Yes, I agree. Yeah. Stay young as long as you can.
Stay long. Yes.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question, because I feel like this is a current topic that's kind of been out there. And I feel like so many things get thrown at women. It's like, yes, we have a right to want careers and to want to be wives and mothers. And I feel like women have done a great job of doing all of those things, to be honest. Tell me the joy you found, and even the challenges of being a stay-at-home mother, because what I'm hearing is there is this woman, and I read your bio, like literally, it sounds like your parents were fantastic. you had this amazing journey. I think I read you met your husband in college, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You
Yes.
know, so you almost have this perfect, wonderful story.
Mm.
And I love it. I'm like, this is what people need to see more of, because they believe that people like this are unicorns. I'm like, no, you can have an amazing family when you pour things into it. But a lot of people feel that women are conflicted about career and family, but you have managed to do it all. Share that with us.
Yeah, so first of all, I don't believe in balance. I believe in priorities. So the idea for me, especially with 6 kids, of saying, okay, everything's going to be in balance. No, I mean, every day something goes wrong, right? So it's figuring out what I need in the moment, what my kids need in the moment, and there are days that are going to be more focused on work than they are on my kids. And as they get older, right? I only have one left at home. We're going to be empty nesters next year, so very exciting. But that idea that, we get to choose, like every day when we wake up, we have a choice of how we move forward. And for me, the choice was, yes, I wanted to do multiple things, and nobody was sacrificed for me doing that, right? I think a lot of times people think, oh, wow, it's really selfish if you do these things. It's selfish for your family. And I've had people say that to me. Like when I climbed Kilimanjaro, I had comments like, don't you think it was a little selfish to leave your family at home while you went and climbed a mountain? And my response is self-care is never selfish, and we have to be able to do things for ourselves. But that idea of how you do it, you make a decision and you go, and you can reevaluate as you go along. But the big thing is that you take action on whatever you decide.
See, and that's that right there. I love how you said that deciding to cultivate you while you are being a wife and a mother is not being selfish.
Mm,
It's part of self-care, finding that balance. Because when we are more balanced, and I know balance is not something you believe in, I'm okay with that. Because balance to me is a word that's arbitrary, like saying
right.
normal.
Right.
What's balance for me
Yeah.
does not mean that's balance for you. You know what I mean? So, but you find a way to make that all work, which makes me think, okay, is this where the first book came out? The Extraordinary UnOrdinary, which the book is behind her. You can always purchase it. Is that kind of where the first book came into play?
So the first book came into play when I started doing a bunch of volunteer work, and from that, I had people say to me, wow, you have such an amazing story. And I'm like, me? I have an amazing story. Like I did not see it, right? I was so focused on the negative parts that I didn't see. Wow, yeah, okay, yes, my story can help other people change their mind about things. And so I started speaking on a volunteer basis, and then I started getting paid to speak. And I was asked, oh, do you have a book? Oh, no, I'm not a writer, right? I'm an accountant. I'm not a writer. Limiting myself. Like that was my mindset. Oh, limit yourself because yeah, you're not capable of that. And then I said, why can't I write a book? Right. So I said, I want to. And I sat down and started, and there you go. But again, it was something that I really wanted to do and not something that someone said, oh, you have to do this.
I think what I saw on your website when I was kind of reading through and learning more about you is when you talk about that particular book, something that caught my eye that I talk about in therapy with people a lot is, that when you are good with you, the most important relationship I tell people you have is with yourself.
Mm,
Because when that relationship is whole and it feels like you are doing the things that make you happy, it tends to flow into the rest of your life. And I noticed one of the things you had on your site was when you change the way you see yourself, the world around you changes. And instantly, to me, that resonated with me.
mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. So for a long time, the way I saw myself was as someone that wasn't capable of these things, and oh, I'm really not doing much in the world. And I had to change the way I saw myself, and I had to realize that I was capable of all of these things. And it's funny, I had this facade for a really long time. I'm not saying that's funny, but like when I look back, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like I literally put up a facade for so long. Oh yeah, everything's good and I'm not struggling, and oh, I'm super strong, like to the point where I actually wouldn't cry about things because I thought if I cried that would show weakness, and maybe everything would crack and fall apart at that point, right? Everything that I was holding in would fall apart. And it really took that work on myself to say, hey, show who you really are, right? You don't need to pretend to be anybody else. You're not benefiting anybody by pretending to be somebody else.
Mhm.
So taking that step back to say, yeah, keep going and doing, like, be yourself and stop worrying about what anybody else thinks.
This is episode 80 of M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition, and we are talking empowerment with best-selling author, Tedx speaker, podcaster, wife, mother, extraordinary human, Simone Knego. I love your story because to me, this is often the basis of what I talk to people about in therapy. Like, don't be afraid to be you. In this moment, if you feel you're not happy with where you are in life, who you are, then you can do the work to change. But be present in the moment with who you are. And a lot of people struggle with that. Hence, I don't like sayings like fake it till you make it. No. Be 100% you in this moment and work on those pieces of you that you want to see improve. I don't like things like keeping up with the Joneses. I always ask, who are the Joneses? And why are we trying to keep up with them? So
Yes.
your first book sounds really powerful. That within itself, I have people who express that they would like to write a book. What was that process like, since technically you're on book 2?
Yeah. So it's funny with the first book, I thought, oh, right. You write the book and people will come. No, it doesn't work that way. So I thought writing the book was going to be the hardest part of the book journey. And really getting people to know about the book is the hardest part of the book journey. The process was actually it was actually really fun because um, most of the book I actually wrote during COVID. So I was home, right? And
Okay. Mhm.
all of the kids were home, which a lot of the stories that ended up in the book were things that I hadn't thought about until the chaos re-entered the house with every single kid coming home. And so we would sit on the couch and I'm like, oh, I forgot about that story. Let me put that story in there. And, obviously I started with an outline and then put in the stories and then the points that I wanted to make. And so much of it is about that the little things that we do in life make a huge difference. And so often we look at other people and say, oh, it's got to be that grandiose gesture. It's got to be the huge philanthropist. But it's the moments that you take to say hi to a stranger or, whatever little things, helping your neighbor with something, like those are life-changing moments. But we don't give ourselves credit for that because we think that it's not big enough.
Mm-hmm. One of our viewers, listeners, has tuned into the show, want to share their thought on what you said. They also said, also writing yourself on the negativity from those who benefit from your misery. The people who have something to gain from you questioning yourself and doubting your abilities. Remove them and watch how high you fly. It's a scary flying, but it feels better than whatever that other crap was under misery. Yes. Yes. Very well said. It's true. And how would you say when you decide that you're going to walk in that path of being truly authentically you? It definitely is a scary feeling, but at the same time, probably very liberating, correct?
Oh, very liberating. And, a lot of the work that I've done really goes into the second book and really how I got to the mindset that I'm in today was based on, the work that when I looked back from Kilimanjaro and said, okay, how did I get here? What were the things that I did? Which was where my real method came out of, which is starts with respecting yourself. So it's respect yourself, embrace your failures, ask yourself what you want, and live without limits. And I didn't realize that I wasn't respecting myself. I had no idea really probably what that meant, right? The idea of self-care, the idea of boundaries. I didn't need to be the yes girl, right? I could say no without guilt. And so many of those things came into play when I realized, oh, wait, yeah, this is how I was treating myself for so long. And the point you make about faking it until you make it, I mean, that's what I was doing, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But what I realized I needed to do was to say it until I become it. So that the way I talk to myself, right? So
Yes.
it's like you say the things that you want because your words become your reality. Your thoughts become your reality. So if you're constantly telling yourself negative things, guess what? It's going to be pretty negative out there. And I'm not saying toxic positivity. I'm saying,
Right. Right.
talk to yourself like you would your best friend. You would not treat your best friend in the way that you treat yourself, right? When I
Mhm.
looked in the mirror for so many years, I was like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with you? I would never do that to my best friend. I would never do that to my children. Like, why would I do it to myself? But I did for years.
And so many people are guilty. The grace and kindness that they can give to others, that self-compassion is really difficult for so many of us to bestow upon ourselves. So like I said, the most important relationship you have with anyone is with you. And like you said, it's like self-talk. I always say you got to have self-talk. Say those positive things to yourself. It's what you put out to the universe is what you are going to get back. And a lot of people don't believe. And that all is to me really nicely like kind of boxed up in the idea of mindfulness. it's something that's often frequently misunderstood. The idea of mindfulness is just as simple as you must be aware of how you think, feel, and move in this world. Because if you think so little of yourself, one, why would anybody else think so differently of you? Because that's what you're going to project and put out there. So you said your second book kind of came into that, and I know it's not out yet. I have to go ahead and share because I like to put all this like good stuff out there. So her next book that will come out is called Real Confidence: A Simple Guide to Go from Unsure to Unshakable. It looks like it's on order now. Heck, I like this even more. Bulk. Get a bunch of friends.
Yes.
Get the book and do like a book club. Because like to me, this is probably a good book club book. Opposed to reading about a story, why not pick a book that can help you grow? And, get your girlfriends and say, hey guys, let's read this book together. So tell us a bit about, I like this, A Simple Guide to Go from Unsure to Unshakable. Tell me more about this.
So this book is based entirely on my real method. So what I started to, described it a little bit before, but respect yourself, embrace your failures, ask yourself what you want, and live without limits. The book is broken into 4 sections based on each one of those pillars. And obviously a lot of stories, but a lot of frameworks, a lot of exercises to really help you realize what you're capable of. And again, it really is about changing the way you see yourself, because you don't need to change who you are. You need to change the way you see yourself, right? We look around and compare ourselves to other people. Why? Why are we doing that, right? Is that affecting their life? No, but it's affecting ours in such a negative way. So that was like the first realization I had. Was like, why am I doing this? So, a lot of very personal stories. My abusive boyfriend, which I really, for years, I didn't talk about. My husband knew about it. My kids knew about it. I mean, I wrote a whole chapter about, what happened, because for me, that was really good therapy to put it out there and say, wow, if this can help one other person, because I think I felt very alone, right? I felt like so much shame and guilt and, why me? And what I realized is when I started talking about it with other women, so many other women said to me, I experienced something similar. I was actually at an event just last week, and there were 5 women in there. 3 of the women out of the 5 had experienced something similar. And I was like, okay, this is why it's important for me to keep talking about this. And so the book really is to help you go from unsure to unshakable, because this is exactly what this method did for me. And I'm not saying unshakable like, oh, you'll never be bothered by anything.
Right.
It means that when something happens, you know how to recover. You know how to stand back up and move forward. And you're not going to worry that, oh, so-and-so is thinking this of me. Who cares?
And that's, people spend so much time worrying about what other people think. And I love when people say, I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm like, yes, you do. Let's just stop right there. Everybody cares about what somebody thinks. It may not be everybody, but it's somebody. And I'm glad you said something that I think a lot of people miss. That being unshakable does not mean that a curveball is not going to be thrown at you. It does not mean you're not going to struggle with something, but it's how you recover when those things happen, because you have cultivated and worked on yourself to be able to push through adversity. So, because it's still going to happen. But something else you shared that I think that people really is a nugget is the vulnerability it took for you to share with people about that abuse. And I find that often when people will share that, they will often find they don't stand alone, and it feels different at that point.
Yes, 100%. I mean, for so long, I thought, oh, it's only me. And anything that I've struggled with in my life, I'm like, oh, I'm the only one that struggles. Until you have a conversation with somebody else, and then you're like, oh, wait, I'm not the only one that struggles. I mean, when I had an event that I went to years ago with a bunch of my close friends, and stuff that I had never talked about with them, because again, I thought I was the only one that struggled. And we started talking, and that was like a big breakthrough moment for me, because I was like, oh, wow, I'm not the only one that feels bad about this. I actually started crying, and they're like, oh my gosh, what did we do with her? We've never seen her cry before. But it was such a powerful moment for me, because I was like, I can actually be myself. This is what I need to be. I don't need to pretend anymore. And I think so often we go through life pretending because we are so worried about what anybody else is thinking. And again, most of the time they are not thinking about us.
That, can I tell you how many times I have to tell people the amount of people that you think are thinking about you is probably not accurate at all, but it's that self-consciousness that I think people just often carry. So the other piece that you do, so you're an author, obviously you're a speaker. So ladies, if you are hearing this and like you're saying to yourself, I think there's some women that could really definitely benefit from this, guess what? Simone is also a speaker. So you can always go to her website, www.simone am I saying your name right? Knego?
Knego, yeah, that's
Knego.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can visit her site because the books, you can order the book there. It talks about obviously having her as a speaker. And then let's get to talking about the podcast, because what I love about the podcast is you said it's with your 22-year-old daughter, which I love. You've got, what is that, Gen X and Gen Z kind of having, or she might be a millennial, maybe, right?
Nah,
Maybe,
she's
maybe.
she's a millennial. Yeah.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
that's it's a close cusp. But
Yeah.
to me, those can be such powerful conversations because you look at the wisdom and the age and the youth and the vitality and the open-mindedness. So kind of where did that come from? The name of the podcast, tell me again, is Her
Her Unshakable.
Unshakable Confidence, right?
Yes.
Podcast
Yes.
available on YouTube, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. So you can find it all there. So tell me, how did this come to be that you guys collaborated to do this podcast?
We have really funny conversations. That's how it originally started, that we would talk about something and we're like, other people might want to listen to this. And then we have a lot of really serious conversations. So she was diagnosed with Crohn's when she was 16 years old. And a lot of the advice that I was giving her at the time, it ended up coming back to a lot of the episodes that we do. So one of the things was when she was first diagnosed, the idea that she was, this is the rest of her life. This isn't a temporary illness. This is the rest of her life. And so I said to her, something really important for you is that you feel all the emotions. Like, you can be angry, sad, cry it out, scream it out, whatever you want to do. And then I need you to pick a day and say you're going to move forward, because you could stay in that moment forever, right? You could be miserable forever and do the poor me and why me. And
Mhm.
and you know what? It's been such a good piece of advice where we both of us have used it, and now the other kids too, of course, but
Mhm.
to say, here's how we move forward. So when we started the podcast, we did some funny episodes, and then we started bringing guests on as well. So we do every other week, the two of us, and the following week we have guests on, and we learn so much from the guests that we have on. It's just amazing. And it's fun to see her have these aha moments. Like, oh, I didn't think about it that way before. We were
Mhm.
talking about yesterday on an episode. She was saying, I've moved from the idea of jealousy over to envy. And I feel like that's still not where I need to be. And I thought that was really
Mm.
interesting. And so, the guest was telling her, yeah, keep going. We got to get rid of the envy too. Because I was saying one of the big things for me is, as I've gone through this change, this method, everything, that I don't look at people and say, oh, I wish that was my life. I look
Mhm.
at them and think, congratulations, that's amazing.
Yes.
So it's a complete change for me. And so she's not there yet, but she's working on it.
But she's 22. So you know what?
Exactly.
There's only room to grow. And think about it. I look at her and I'm like, wow, to begin this journey and to have that insight at 22, she's going to be an amazing woman. Because let's be honest, many of us, I'm 53, we didn't do that kind of work growing up. It wasn't on the table. The idea of therapy or even these kind of conversations just weren't very present. I'm like, Simone, I feel like you're like my twin therapist, though you're a CPA, because you say so many things to people that I literally say to people in therapy.
Mm.
And it's like almost they stand in disbelief, like it's not possible. And I was like, this is why I do the ambition shows. Like, yes, it is. Go watch this episode so you can get what I'm saying. And also, by the way, we talked about your books, your podcasts. I've tried to make things easy for people. So you'll notice at the top of the screen, there is a QR code. If you scan that, that will take you directly to Simone's website. So you can find her podcast, books, and learn more about her. So I'm making this easy. So you can scan that and it'll take you right there as well. But of course, you can always go to the website. Remember, it's www.simoneknego.com. I did read how you have the acronym. And again, it's something else I found very powerful. Can you touch on that again? What the real acronym stands for?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so it stands for respect yourself, embrace your failures, ask yourself what you want, and live without limits. And I would love to talk about, so I have this little mindset hack that I do. So when we talk about the negative voice that we have, right? And
Mhm.
we all have it. You keep working, it still comes in, but it's what you do with it that changes as you work on this more and more. I call it the what if whisperer, also known as Sally Fine. Freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. I had to name her so that I could, be like, okay, you can separate yourself from this.
Love it. I love it.
But so anytime I have that voice come in my head, I do my little hack, which is called Control Alt Delete. So back in the day, that was how we would restart a frozen computer. Now, if you hit Control Alt Delete, I guess it brings up Task Manager. I don't even know what that means, but I know that's what it does.
Yes.
So, but our minds freeze too, right? We get stuck in that comparison game. We spiral in self-doubt. So control is all about awareness. So when those thoughts come in your mind, like, oh, wow, is this real? Like, am I making up a story here? What's the story that I'm telling myself, right? Alt is about alternative. Tell yourself a better story. Instead of, I can't, how about I can? Instead of, what if I fail? How about when I succeed, right? Again, your thoughts become your reality. What you say to yourself becomes your reality. And then finally, delete the comparison game, delete the apology, delete the belief that, you're not enough because you are enough. And so for me, the more I use that little mindset hack, the more I'm like, oh, I can catch it really quick and say, this isn't real. Let's move on.
I love that. So with these are great acronyms, things that I feel like, I don't know if you have like wonderful, like little posters or things that if people buy your book that they could get, because I feel one of the best ways to get people on that path to changing their mindset is the visual piece. I feel like I always tell people, for instance, like if you have goals, you have to take those goals from your head and put them on the inside, write them down. But don't just write them down and review them every day. In fact, I tell people, whatever your morning routine is, if you're like me, you wake up, you stumble to the bathroom, you trip over a cat, and then you do something. They wrangle me downstairs to feed them. That's kind of like what my mornings look like. But I always encourage people, like, take those goals, write or type them out, and visually put them in a space like on your bathroom mirror. And when you start your day, review those things. Reflect on them. Because what I have found, when people actually have written their goals down and they think they've accomplished nothing all year, and we'll do like kind of a wrap up at the end of the year, I'm like, let's pull back out those goals, which I know you haven't been reviewing like we talked about, but it's okay. We're going to review them now. What have we accomplished? And they start going down the list, and they're actually kind of shocked at how much they achieved. In their mind, they hadn't achieved anything because they're still spinning. But the reality of the situation is they did more than what they thought they had, because it was in front of them. So I love those. I think those are such really like plausible acronyms that people could use every day to help them work through the challenges that they have. Because as we know, there's a lot of negativity right now in the world. That's not good.
Yeah. And it, again, it's a practice, right? Confidence is a skill that you build from the inside out. It's not something you're born with. It's not something that everybody else has and you don't, right? It's something you work on. So for example, you're not going to go to the gym one time and be buff, right? You're not going to go, I mean, I wish, but no,
Right.
You're not going to take one Spanish lesson and be fluent. So why would we think that our mindset would be any different, right? We have to work on it every single day. And it doesn't stop. It's not like all of a sudden, okay, like everything's fixed and I never have to do it again. No, it doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. And I'm glad you said that, because there is that idea that certain things are just innate, that they just happen. But as you just said, everything from confidence, self-compassion, self-worth, those are all things you have to be mindful about and work on all the time, because often they are very easily challenged on a daily basis, to be honest. So it's like your mindset about it, like you said, you just don't learn Spanish. Like, I'm sure people are waiting for the day they can insert that chip into your brain, or like we're the Matrix, where they can upload all the skill sets, We're not there yet. I don't think I want that, by the way.
I don't want it either.
I kind of like fumbling through things a little bit. Tell me about you. I know that people always ask someone to tell them about a very powerful moment. Was climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, would you say, was that like really like a defining big moment for you, or not so much?
Oh yeah, that was a really big defining moment for me, because I really was in that spiral of, I'm not good enough. I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I'm just Rob's wife. I'm just a volunteer, really justifying my existence with that word. And I didn't realize it until later, and now when I listen to women, I'm like, drop the just. You are amazing as you are. Drop the just. You do not need to justify anything. But yeah, that was completely a life-changing moment for me, because I set a goal, I put in the work, and I accomplished it. And it actually, I've had people ask me, well, if you didn't make it to the summit, would you feel the same? I don't know, because I did. So,
Exactly.
but I would say it was the taking the action piece that really mattered to me, that I was like, I used to break a lot of promises that I would make to myself, right? Oh, you're going to go to the gym today. Oh, you'll start everything on January 1st. I do not believe in January 1st.
Thank
If you,
you.
if you
Thank
want to
you.
do it, start it today. Why
Yeah.
January? But that was me for a very long time, where majority of my life, where I would just say, oh, I'll get to it. Or yes, I'll do that. And, that's not reality. So that moment when I reached the summit, it really was like, oh, wow, you can do hard things, right? You didn't stop. It was one foot in front of the other. And one of the coolest parts of that whole experience was actually when I reached the summit, I had cell service, and which nobody else on our team did.
But-
And I was able to call home. A friend, another woman, my tent mate, she was able to use my phone and call home too. But I was able to call home, and my husband answered the phone. The kids were cheering. The dogs started barking. The kids started yelling at the dogs to stop barking. The kids started yelling at each other to stop yelling. But I was like, oh, yay, I'm back. But it was so powerful because, that idea where people were like, don't you think it's selfish? I mean, my kids were like, mom's, so strong. Like, this is
You
so
could say
cool,
it.
right?
You
Okay.
could say
Mom's a
it.
badass. Mom's a
Thank you. I'm
badass.
like, don't hold back
Yeah.
on that one.
Yeah. I didn't know if I could say it or not, but and that for them, they didn't think I was being selfish. They
No,
thought,
not at all.
and what a great example, anything that you do that challenges yourself, that your kids see, and they're like,
Yes.
oh, wow, mom did that. I'm going to try to do that too. Or I'm going to try something different too, something out of my comfort zone, instead of saying, oh no, we just play it safe all the time around here. Let's not try anything new. So, completely life-changing moment for me, and life-changing for my family, which was
Yes.
probably one of the coolest things.
I'm glad you kind of turned it on its ear, because one, what I think people often don't think is some things are a once in a lifetime opportunity. They don't come back around. You don't get the chance to do it. So when you get something like that, you got to step back and be like, wow, let me really consider this. But on the flip side, what you just said was people who thought it was selfish because you had to leave your family for a time to accomplish this task. But look in the same scope what you taught them, to be able to take a chance. Yes, it might be hard work, but look at the reward. Like all of those like kind of unspoken lessons that, you didn't talk about, but look at what they got to see. To me, that's way more powerful than some of the conversations that often you can try to have with teenagers or even kids, because you know how that goes.
Yep. Not so good sometimes, right? I mean,
It's not
well,
so good.
well, we do the do as I say, not as I do, right? And
Mhm.
like, what do we want our kids learn from modeling, right? We can tell
Yes.
them all day long, like, don't do
Mhm.
that, don't do that. But if we're doing it, what are they going to do? They're going to copy us, right? So, I can tell my kids, oh, you need to read 60 books this year. And then if I'm scrolling on my phone and watching TV, they're like, why do I need to read 60 books? You're just sitting there doing nothing. So I really think it's so important that we focus on
Mhm.
modeling.
Have you ever thought about just kind of writing a book or doing something about parenting? Because,
Mm.
the saying is, parenting doesn't come with a manual, and it doesn't. But I feel there's a lot of people who have done great job at parenting that could definitely give some good pointers or ideas to people who maybe are struggling with trying to connect with their kids or feel like they're not being a good parent.
Yes, I've thought about it, and who knows what will come next. But it's been, I think, having the podcast with Olivia
Mhm.
has been really eye-opening for things. Actually, one of the most eye-opening things she said on the podcast was a few months ago, and she said, a guest asked her, like, what was the most important thing that you learned about your mom? And she said that she's human. Right. She goes, when I was younger, I always thought about her as mom, like, oh, she has to know everything. She has to do everything. She doesn't make mistakes. She's mom. And then she was like, oh, no, she's human. Like, she can make mistakes, and she can do amazing things. And she doesn't have to do every little thing for us. And I was like, oh, that was a great one, Liv.
Well, hey, you used to have been like, did a good
I know.
job here. I did a
I
good
know.
job.
I
But
know.
something, but you'd be surprised. And to me, she said something I feel that was actually very powerful, because a lot of kids don't see their parents as human.
Yeah.
So when they make a mistake, I'll be like, and I've said that, like, your parents are still human. I'm like, they're not always going to get everything right, but it's about how things are handled or how you choose to communicate. So the fact that she said that, I mean, I just think that can be so eye-opening for so many kids, because they often don't see their parents in that capacity. So That was
Yeah.
an amazing thing for her to
Yeah.
say. Wow. Everybody, this is episode 80. Let's talk empowerment with best-selling author, Tedx speaker, and podcaster Simone Knego, who, among many things, has climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, but she is a mother, a wife, just so many things. And she puts all of this into two amazing books she has. So Real Confidence, I see on your site, it says order now. When is it set for release?
It releases on February 17th. So I am in book launch season. And I'm really excited for this book to come out because I really think it's going to help a lot of women. It's specifically written for women, and not that men can't read it, because we know men should read things like this too.
Yes.
But it really is. I wrote it for women, and I wrote it based on my experiences of really figuring out how to move forward, even through really difficult times, especially
Yeah.
through really difficult times.
Especially through difficult times. And so, of course, we have the podcast with your daughter, Olivia. When does that air?
We drop an episode every Tuesday, and we are, I think, 130 episodes in. I'd have to, 130 something. I don't remember exactly, because we've recorded a few more episodes, but they haven't been posted yet. But yeah, again, every other week it's a guest, and the following week it's the two of us. And it has been really one of the most fun pieces that I get to do on a weekly basis.
Nice. And of course, you can find the podcast on YouTube, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. So wherever there's a podcast platform, pretty much you're there. So this should be obviously easy for people to get the content too. So that's a good thing. I always encourage people, hey, make sure you get social with our guests. So you can always find Simone on Instagram at Simone Knego, Facebook at Speaker Simone Knego, and then LinkedIn, if you're a LinkedIn person, at Simone Knego. I always encourage people to connect, because what best way to know, one, when the book is dropping, two, the podcast, all that good stuff. If you just stay connected with people, of course, going to your website. That's always the easy thing to do too. So hopefully people will go to your website, www.simoneknego.com. Remember, everyone, I'm trying to make this easy for you. So at the top of the screen, there is a QR code that you can scan. It'll take you right to her website, and you can they pre-order the book at this point? It sounds
they
like
can pre-order the book. And when you pre-order the book, there's several bonuses that you get, including a reverse interview with my daughter, which is a lot of fun, and a cool Spotify playlist. You actually get the first couple of chapters of the book that you can download today and get started, so you see what's coming next.
Oh, nice. So it's kind of like you give like a little teaser to kind of,
Yes.
work for that February drop for the book to come out. Fantastic. All right. Any parting things you'd like to share with our guest?
I just want to go back to the idea of that you don't need to change who you are. You need to change the way you see yourself, right? You are more capable, more powerful, more, amazing than because you haven't taken the time to really get to know yourself. And that idea of really focusing on how important the relationship is with yourself, because when you have a solid relationship with yourself, you have solid relationships with other people.
Yes, you do. So, see, this is just affirmation of what I say. So now I'm just going to start saying, just need you to go listen to episode 80, so you'll know it. What I'm telling you is your therapist is, it does resonate on the outside. Other people, it goes there. So I'm going to start saying, you need to go follow Simone Knego so you can understand what I'm saying to you here in therapy, so it makes more sense. Yes, I agree with you 100%. Well, thank you for taking time out of your Saturday. I know people could be doing better things with their time, so I appreciate you for cutting time out to do this and talk with my guest.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today.
Yes. All righty. Well, thank you, everyone. This is Simone Knego. Make sure you order that book, because it sounds like it's got a lot of nice things that comes with it leading up to the release of the book in February. All right, everybody. So that was episode 80. Let's talk empowerment. Of course, my guest is amazing. I don't just say that. Everyone who's come on this show in this 11th installment of the Ambition shows has dropped nothing short of just nuggets of things that, if you take one or two things of what they say, could be life-changing for you. And I mean, a lot of these things are not easy to do. So, and I know that, a lot of times people struggle with reading, but I said, pick up something that's going to make a difference in your life. And to me, this absolutely makes a difference. So remember, you can scan the QR code at the top of the screen. and it'll take you to Simone's website, and you can pre-order the book. You can learn more about the podcast and all those things. So I'm trying to make things a little bit easier for people to get involved and engaged. So you can do that. Something that I actually have to do better at is I'm sitting here promoting everything for everybody. I actually have an app, the M.A.Y.A experience. And I'm laughing because it's been active for a bit and I really, really have not promoted it, but it's everything pretty much like M.A.Y.A in one place. So if you scan it, obviously it has the podcast there that you can watch live on your phone. It has the video, the audio piece. So if you just want to listen to the podcast, you can. You can get access to the blogs as well. So everything M.A.Y.A is right there. So you can take M.A.Y.A on the go. You can scan those 2 QR codes right there. But of course, like I said, I'm doing a good job about adding all these different elements in. So if you are an Apple person, here is the link up top that you can scan to go to the Apple Store and to download the app. And if you happen to be more of an Android person, which those people do exist in the world, I don't know why. I'm a little biased about that. But you can always go to the Amazon store. Here is the link for that as well. And you can get the app through the Amazon store. So go ahead, download the M.A.Y.A experience and take M.A.Y.A on the go. And guess what? At that point, you'll never have to miss anything M.A.Y.A at that point, which will make life easier for you. So it's a good thing. Let me talk about my next guest. And this is one of those things that for me, I'm actually really excited about because I love the holistic approach to things. Coming up on Monday, and we've been stacking these episodes together literally to kind of push through the year. Episode 81, I'm going to have on Dr. Hector Rodriguez. A story that's absolutely worth hearing. He's a psychiatrist, but his journey to becoming a psychiatrist is entirely different than most. Believe it or not, he was a photographer before. And something changed in his life, and he decided he wanted to pursue and be an advocate for mental health, but he wanted to be a psychiatrist. And his approach is different in the sense that he talks about there are so many holistic ways to deal with complex mental health conditions. And he is a student of Dr. M.A.Y.A, who is big into the SPEC brain scan. A lot of things in the field of psychology is changing. And this SPEC game is definitely going to be something that to be able to look at someone's brain, and it leads providers down a path of understanding potentially what you're struggling with just by looking at where your brain is more active at. So he's going to be a great guest to have on. He's going to be on Monday, 1 o'clock Central Time. So set your timers. This would be a really good time to go ahead and just subscribe and share my YouTube page at M.A.Y.A Speaks to You, and then you will not miss this episode. So definitely, if you want to hear a different side or how the field of psychology is definitely growing and changing, this is an episode I would say that's definitely worth you checking out. So with that being said, I always appreciate, thank you to everyone for listening to this episode. As I said, the whole purpose of this podcast is to help you to identify your ambition, harness that motivation, but to help you acquire the success and satisfaction that you seek, not just in life, but in your everyday life. I want people to think big, not long-term goal in the future. I want you to be present and to really dig deep into what your everyday looks like so you can be happy that way as well. Remember, you can always find episodes. I'm very much like Simone, trying to put everything out there. So you can always find it on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Audible, Spotify. Just search M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition. Of course, you can listen to episodes on my website, maya-speaks.com. Of course, if you subscribe to the YouTube page, it'll make life easy for you. So you can always subscribe to M.A.Y.A Speaks to You. And guess what? I finally got it together. So when you subscribe to YouTube, you also can be social with me. And you can find me on Facebook, IG, and X. Of course, the website is where I direct everyone to so that you can check out my inspirational blog, as well as the Me on Pause, my menopause blog. Weekly on Wednesdays, I post something new for you to take in and to process, because if you're like me, the poster child for menopause, the things I have learned along the way definitely have been life-changing and has helped me to navigate things a lot better. All right, everyone, until next time, remember, your present becomes your past, and your future is no more. So make the most of every single day. So I tell people, always be well, stay amazing, but nothing else, as Simone said, and hopefully this is resonating with everybody. You're amazing, even if you don't realize it. But the minute you create that mindset, you'll start to see a shift that changes how the world moves and feels to you. All right, everyone. Hopefully I will see you all on Monday. Until next time.
Whether you're on the go or listening on your cell phone, tablet, or laptop, you can find the show in the iTunes, Google, and iHeartRadio platforms.
With all due respect, I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Just search M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition, and get ready to be inspired and motivated to harness your ambition.